Pope Benedict XVI has led the way with various clarifications. Limbo, for example, he indicated, is a concept that doesn't have to be held anymore, really. It never was a dogma. It was just a way to try to comfort people whose babies died before being baptized. And even before he was Pope, when asked about it, he said, let it rest. And earlier in 2007, in an address on Stephen, Pope Benedict noted that he and his 6 companions were not deacons. He said, correctly, the word doesn't even appear in Acts at all. So why use it? Well, in 1949, Father Ed Siegman, an eminent American biblical scholar, published an article in the Catholic Biblical Quarterly about the use of the Bible in dogmatic theology textbooks. He said most of them were used correctly, but those that weren't evidenced 3 problems, and they're still with us. The first is mistranslations. Many excellent translations from original languages exist today, many more than when Siegman wrote, and some continue to pose unnecessary problems. I'm going to take a chance here and talk about inclusive language. That really does damage to the text. It may make American ears feel well, but our ancestors in the faith are rolling in the grave saying, good God, we don't believe that, we don't practice that. Every Sunday I go to church at a Polish ethnic parish because I'm Polish. It's terminal, no hope. The Missalette is bilingual. So I'm looking as the reader is reading Polish, and when Paul's letters are read, he starts off by saying, bracia. Translation, brothers. The English side of the page has brothers and sisters. Well, that makes all the women feel good, except brothers and sisters were not together in these worship situations. And as I just mentioned in my talk, this was a public situation, not a private situation. You have to live by public rules, cultural rules. Our military who was stationed in Saudi Arabia realized what public rules are about and how you just can't go being your American self in a country that doesn't observe your kind of public rules. So I would strongly urge that we pay attention to our Bible translations, and there's a book I have on the handout. You'll see that we just published this year, on translation problems. There's some real doozers in there. Second there is taking a text out of context. Some scholars have noted that the immediate fuller context of the saying, there are eunuchs who have made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven, is a discussion about remarriage after divorce, and never was about celibacy. Never. The context of the saying is complex, and tearing that text out of its context is irresponsible. Interpreting the verse on its own out of context is impossible. You can all understand the English sentence, he hit it. But not a single one of you can interpret it. You don't know who he is, you don't know what it is, and you don't know what hit means. You can understand it, but you can't interpret it. You need context. Thirdly, don't read into a text something the author never intended. Technically, this is called eisegesis. Responsible readers of the Bible strive for exegesis, drawing out of a text the meaning that the author intended. According to Molina and Pilch in our commentary on Paul, considering Paul to be an apostle to the Gentiles is an example of eisegesis, reading into his text something he did not intend. Writing his long letter to God's beloved in Rome, that's Romans 1:7. Notice he's not writing to all the Romans. God's beloved, that's his fellow Israelites in Rome. He finally gets to non-Israelite Jesus group members in chapter 11. He writes 10 chapters and totally ignores these non-Israelites. And when he gets there, guess what he says? He considers them a wild olive shoot grafted to the rich root of the olive tree. If you know anything all about grafting, you know what's going to produce if you put a wild olive shoot onto a cultivated tree? Inedible fruit. It'll make you gag. That's what he thinks of Gentiles. If you know about grafting, you take a cultured olive root and you put it onto a wild olive tree, you're going to get edible fruit. Thank you, Paul. So the ethnocentric Paul levels a stinging insult to non-Israelites as he cautions them against being arrogant. To view him otherwise is to make him out to be someone he isn't. By conclusion, in his book, Jesus of Nazareth, Pope Benedict XVI wrote, quote, "It goes without saying that this book," I shouldn't actually do this. I'm sorry, I'm an actor. It goes without saying that this book is in no way an exercise of the magisterium. It is solely an expression of my personal search for the face of the Lord. Everyone is free then to contradict me. I would only ask my readers for that initial goodwill, without which there can be no understanding, end quote. I can think of no better way to conclude my reflections on Paul the Change Agent, model for the 21st century. Thank you.